When everything is settled. Looking at the whole place, only Zhang Xuanji is still standing. Bear King Bailey, Blood Demon William, Sword Saint Kusumataro, Fist Saint Bong, the three ace killers of Tianzhu Kingdom, and several main gods of the Pantheon, all died or were injured. Blood Demon William's body had been blown into countless pieces of meat, which kept squirming on the ground, trying to piece together. Fist Saint Bong was even more dead, not even a slag was left. Bear King Bailey, including the three ace killers of Tianzhu Kingdom, all had broken arms and were seriously injured. As for Kusumataro, although his limbs were intact, his internal organs had long been shattered, and he had been coughing up blood. Coupled with the backlash of the demon's sword, he had aged by dozens of years. With a haggard face and a head full of white hair, he looked like an old man who was about to die. It was obvious that he was not far from death. How could this happen? No, this is impossible! Looking at the broken limbs and arms all over the ground, Bear King Bailey was struck by lightning, his face full of disbelief. The people around him are all top masters from all over the world. Any one of them is enough to sweep across the world. However, he never dreamed that these top masters from all over the world could not even stop Zhang Xuanji's sword. In other words, Zhang Xuanji's strength has far exceeded their expectations. They fought hard for a long time and used many tricks, but in the end they only killed a paperman clone of the opponent. When the real Zhang Xuanji attacked, they didn't even have the ability to parry. The two sides are no longer on the same level. Their siege today is completely like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. I have always been kind to others and never make enemies easily. I didn't expect that you damn bastards would dare to besiege Longhu Mountain. Let me ask, who lent you the courage? Zhang Xuanji stood in the air, speaking sharply and with a strong momentum. The powerful pressure from his body made it almost impossible for Bear King Bailey and several other survivors to breathe. The three ace killers of Tianzhu Kingdom panicked, kneeling on the ground while enduring the pain, and began to kowtow and beg for mercy. At this moment, they truly realized the terrifying nature of the number one man in Dragon Kingdom. To them, Zhang Xuanji at this moment was like a god. Powerful, terrifying, and inviolable. Apart from kowtowing and begging for mercy, they really couldn't think of any other way to survive. Master Zhang, I was bewitched, so I offended Longhu Mountain in a moment of confusion. I hope Master Zhang will not bear grudges and forgive me this time. I am willing to give up all my wealth to compensate Longhu Mountain. Taro Kusama knelt on the ground, his head bowed, praying in the most humble and sincere tone. He knew very well that his life and death depended entirely on Zhang Xuanji's thoughts. At this time, any backbone or dignity were all nonsense. As long as he could survive, he would do anything. Compensation? Zhang Xuanji snorted coldly. You people from the Golden Crow Kingdom have come to our Dragon Kingdom to do evil more than once or twice. If I let you go today, how can I be worthy of the heroic souls who died? Master Zhang, you dragons, there is a saying in the country that knowing a mistake can lead to great improvement. I already know that I was wrong. As long as you let me live, I swear that I will never go against the Dragon Kingdom from now on. I also ask Zhang Tianshi to show mercy. Taro Kusama grabbed my head. He knocked on the ground until his face was covered with blood. You don't know that you are wrong, you just know that you are going to die. But it doesn't matter, I forgive you, be careful in the next life. After saying this, Zhang Xuanji didn't hesitate at all, raised her hand and struck out with a sword. Whoosh! The white sword light shot out instantly. Zhang Tianshi, spare your life! Taro Kusama's face changed with fright. Before he could react, the sword light had already passed through his body. Bang! There was an explosion. Taro Kusama's body exploded instantly, turning into blood mist and spreading all over the ground, leaving no body behind. Now it's your turn. Zhang Xuanji turned her eyes and glanced at the remaining people. The three Tianzhu country killers were frightened to death. They knelt on the ground and shivered. In the poor long country dialect, the word spare life could be vaguely heard. On the contrary, Bear King Bailey quickly regained his composure after a brief panic. In other words, he was mentally prepared to die. "Come on, let's have a good time." Bear King Bailey closed his eyes as if he was looking forward to death. "You have some backbone, so I'll leave you a whole corpse." Zhang Xuanji raised his hand and pointed. An ray of light shot out like a bullet, directly penetrating the center of Bear King Bailey's eyebrows. Bear King Bailey trembled all over, then collapsed to the ground, losing all breath. The last 3 Tianzhu ace killers were killed by Zhang Xuanji with one sword and died with their eyes open. At this point, all the top powerful men sent by the temples have died. The siege operation was a complete failure. After dealing with all the strong men, Zhang Xuanji's figure flashed and disappeared directly on the spot. When he appeared again, he was already above the forbidden land of Longhu Mountain. At this moment, the entrance of the Forbidden Land was already full of corpses and blood. All the members of the Pantheon, including Tyson, were lying on the ground. Dalton and Wei Ling were covered in blood and murderous. After a fierce battle, they finally defended the Forbidden Land of Longhu Mountain and strangled the Pantheon's plan to destroy the Dragon Vein. At this time, Dalton seemed to have noticed something and suddenly raised his head and took a look. Through the fog and darkness, he accurately captured Zhang Xuanji above the Forbidden Land. Zhang Xuanji smiled slightly, nodded to Dalton, and then his figure flashed and disappeared again. The next second, Zhang Xuanji had crossed several mountains and came to the sky above the Longhu Mountain Hall. At this moment, the disciples of Longhu Mountain were still fighting with the elites of the Pantheon. With Katie Foster, the new Heavenly Master, and Orion Foster and other strong men charging, even if the Pantheon had a large number of people, they would not be able to break through the defense of Longhu Mountain for a while. After looking down for a few seconds, Zhang Xuanji suddenly formed a seal with one hand and pointed it downward. Buzz! A magic array covering the entire hall with a radius of 1 kilometer suddenly formed. The magic array rotated and quickly pressed down, like a mountain, hitting the crowd heavily. The elites of the Pantheon screamed and fell to the ground, unable to move. This attack directly suppressed 90% of the enemies. The remaining small number of survivors were quickly defeated by the counterattack of the Longhu Mountain disciples. Before Zhang Xuanji took action, the battle was in full swing, and it was difficult to tell who would win. After taking action, the battle was resolved in an instant. For Zhang Xuanji, the Pantheon's long-planned plan was more like a joke. In other words, in the face of absolute strength, any conspiracy is useless. After suppressing all the invaders, Zhang Xuanji's figure flashed and disappeared completely, and he never showed up again. However, what he did was seen by many powerful people in Longhu. At this moment, in a tavern not far from Longhu Mountain, the 3 powerful people Aloy Marshall of Celestial Alliance, Cyrus Hadley of Sword Sect, and Penelope Salas of Mystic Arts Order, gathered together rarely. They all heard about the invasion of the Pantheon gods tonight, so they did not leave directly, but hid near Longhu Mountain, intending to enjoy a good show. This time, the Pantheon gods invited the top strong men from all over the world, and it was obvious that they were determined to win. They thought that even if these strong men could not kill Zhang Xuanji, they should be able to injure him. At the very least, forcing Zhang Xuanji to go all out should be no problem. But the final result was beyond all their expectations. From the beginning to the end, Zhang Xuanji was just playing like a cat playing with mouse. Just a paper-man clone made the strong men of the Pantheon gods suffer. When Zhang Xuanji really took action, it was a one-sided crushing. The 3 of them witnessed the whole process, and their hearts were mixed. Because Zhang Xuanji's strength was far beyond their expectations. I didn't quite believe it before, but now it seems that Zhang Xuanji has really reached the realm in the creation theory. After a long silence, Alan Marshall couldn't help but sigh. The immortal realm on land is the highest realm that they can only hope for but cannot reach. For thousands of years from ancient times to the present, countless martial art masters have set this as their goal, but only 5 of them can finally break through the realm. And most of them only exist in the records of historical books, and no one has really seen them. But Zhang Xuanji is different. The other party really exists, and the battle just now has confirmed this. Realm of immortals, they are not comparable to us mortals. Cyrus Hadley's face was gloomy. He used to be arrogant and challenged Zhang Xuanji. Although he was defeated at that time, he did not have a deep understanding. Now that he has seen Zhang Xuanji's horror with his own eyes, he realized the gap between the two, like a firefly and a bright moon. An ultimate Grand Master level strong man can be suppressed with just a raise of his hand, and only the legendary immortals can do it. Today's incident tells us that we must not be enemies with Longhu Mountain, otherwise that old monster alone can destroy our entire sect. Penelope Salas shook her head. I thought there would be a good show tonight, but I never thought it would become a one-sided massacre. I believe that after tonight, the Pantheon will not dare to offend Longhu Mountain again within 100 years. Of course, whether Zhang Xuanji will leave Longhu and go overseas to find trouble with the Pantheon depends on the other party's mood. As long as Zhang Xuanji is willing, it is only a matter of time to wipe out the entire Pantheon. The night is getting deeper and deeper. When the Dragon State officials arrived with the army, only the ground was in ruins. Countless members of the Pantheon were killed or wounded, and the remaining survivors were all captured. Longhu Mountain was too lazy to bother, and finally handed over all the prisoners to the army. Although it was a conspiracy against Longhu Mountain, from an official perspective, this was a war between countries. The officials could make good use of this opportunity to gain greater benefits for the country. This time, the Pantheon lost both the lady and the army. The turmoil overnight quickly subsided. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight shone on the earth, Longhu Mountain had returned to its former peace. Only the bloodstains on the ground and the destroyed buildings still told of the chaos last night. All the prisoners in the temples were taken away by the army called by Margaret. Various gossips began to spread everywhere. All the major sects in the world have a mentality of taking advantage of others. After all, throughout the ages, there have been too few people who dared to offend Longhu Mountain. Such a bold act of blatant invasion and intent to destroy Longhu was unprecedented. As for the result, the whole world has seen it. After many years, this is the first time that various countries have clearly realized the terror of Zhang Xuanji. It was almost a godlike existence. At this moment, the headquarters of the Western temples, inside the temple. The key members have already gathered, sitting in 2 rows on the left and right. On the throne facing the door, sat a man wearing golden armor and a golden mask. The man was unusually tall and tall. Even when he was sitting, he was a head taller than an ordinary person. The guard, nearly 2 meters tall, stood in front of him, as thin as a child. The man in golden armor is none other than the Lord of the Pantheon, the supreme being in the Western world, Satan. No one knows what Satan looks like, and no one knows how powerful Satan is. Even the name, Satan, is spread by outsiders. Hundreds of years have passed since the birth of the temples. Satan has always existed and is firmly seated as the master of the temples. No one has challenged Satan's authority before, but the final results were miserable. Among them are many leaders of the major dark races. Over time, the terror of Satan has become deeply rooted in people's hearts. Looking at the latest battle report from his subordinates, Satan's red pupils hidden under the mask were filled with anger and murderous intent. He never imagined that his carefully laid plan would end up with the entire army being annihilated. Whether it is Bear King Bailey, Blood Demon William, or thugs from other countries, they are all top strong men. Coupled with the elite team carefully selected by the Pantheon of Gods, normally speaking, it is not difficult to destroy Longhu Mountain. But the final result disappointed him. Are his subordinates so useless? Or is the one from Longhu Mountain too strong? Everyone, what do you think about the failure of this operation? After a long silence, Satan finally spoke. His voice was hollow, without any emotion, and no joy could be heard. My lord, the failure of this mission is mainly due to the Bear King Bailey. A man in a loose black robe whose appearance could not be seen clearly said. With his strength, he is simply unable to take on the position of God King. It is precisely because he is not strong enough and has no leadership ability that our people were annihilated. Poseidon, you'd better be careful with your words. Bailey was appointed by the Lord. Are you questioning the Lord's vision? At this time, a woman with a voluptuous figure and wearing an ancient Greek mask said, Hera, don't try to sow discord here. I don't question the Lord. I just think Bailey is not qualified to replace Hades. The black-robed man, Poseidon said coldly. After all this talk, you still don't accept it. The charming Hera chuckled. Bailey's strength has been recognized by everyone. Becoming the God King is the choice of everyone's vote. You can't slander him here. Humph! If Bailey is really as powerful as you say, why did the plan fail? And the whole army was annihilated! Poseidon sneered. You! Hera was speechless for a moment. Enough! At this time, the blond man in the front suddenly shouted, Are there any rules for making a fuss in front of the Lord? After this, the two of them shut up. It's a pity that the two of them still have some awe for the blond man. Zeus, you come and give your evaluation. Satan tilted his head slightly, and his red eyes hit the blond man through the mask. My lord, I think the main reason for the failure of this mission is the problem with intelligence. The blond Zeus analyzed. We know too little about Longhu Mountain, and much of the intelligence we collected is useless. We also seriously underestimated Zhang Xuanji's strength, which led to the failure of Bailey's ambush and ultimately failed. Well, continue. Satan nodded. According to my investigation, Zhang Xuanji's current strength has exceeded the limits of mortals. Unless you, Lord, personally take action, no one can be his opponent, Zeus said in a serious tone. He said this with a somewhat flattering attitude. In fact, in his opinion, even if the Lord personally faced Zhang Xuanji, he might not win. For some reason, I cannot leave the sphere of influence of the Pantheon, so the plan to kill Zhang Xuanji can only be declared a failure. Satan's voice was flat. Although we cannot destroy Longhu Mountain, the plan to plunder Dragon Kingdom cannot be stopped. What are your plans next? I suggest that we start from the royal family of Dragon Kingdom. Zeus suddenly lowered his voice and said, According to my investigation, the king of Dragon Kingdom is ill and will not live long. As long as he dies, there will be chaos in Dragon Kingdom. If we take the opportunity to support a prince to take the throne and help him control the power, then the entire Dragon Kingdom will be ours. Good idea. Satan's eyes lit up. I'll leave this matter to you. You can deploy all the resources of the Pantheon at will, including Hera and Poseidon, who are all under your command. This mission must succeed, not fail.
And just can't accept it. This can't be the end yet. You promised to never leave, and now you're gone. Can't believe I can feel the world slipping away as you slowly fade from my everyday. You promised forever a love without end, but now I'm left broken, struggling to mend. I thought we were so tied, destined for a lifetime, love with no end, love with no end. Staying in my imagination, memorizing the past time, the secrets, the love, the care, now they're echoes in the air. I still see your face in every place, feel your warmth, your gentle grace, but now there's just an empty space, and I'm lost in this endless chase. Keeping you in my heart, a piece of you I'll never let go. Though distance brings separation, in my heart you'll always glow. just can't say goodbye. No matter how hard I try, a bond like ours so deep and true will always be if you stay or no. I thought we were so tied, destined for a lifetime, love with no end, love with no